Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and get started. As we go along, my name is Paul Vanderplow. I'm the Director of Sports Services, City Internal Affairs for City of Dearborn Heights. I'll be the quasi-monitor or moderator for today. The idea is we want to have a very free flow of information between any questions you might have and the representatives from the police department. We'll do introductions here in a second. Do we have any housekeeping things? Does anybody need anything before we get started? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with our mayor. But first I'd like to, we're going to start like we do every other public meeting. I'd like to ask all the please rise, and we're going to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thanks again for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come learn about the police department. First, we're going to start with Honorable Mayor Bill Vazzi. Would you like to say a few words, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Vanderplow. I know the current leadership in the police department, there's a lot of questions been floating around, and we wanted to actually, talk to the residents. As you can see, we're recording this. So whoever doesn't show up, we're going to post it just to make sure that everybody can see, what we're talking about here. And I know we've had several meetings, town hall meetings, with any area that they want to have meetings. We've been going. We've had probably close to 10. We went over some of the similar stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And we had one town hall meeting. We had about 100 people that showed up. They actually organized it. So they organize something, we go, we present, we show them, what we're doing. But I want to go back a few years. So when I was on council, a lot of residents, they reached out to me, and somebody in here that, they had concerns with PD, some of the concerns, issues. And, I took notice of a lot of things, and, I wanted to do a lot of changes back in the day, but obviously, being on council is hard. So when I was elected, not appointed, when I was elected, that we started working with trying to change some of the stuff that we saw, that I saw, or some of the concerns that was brought forward. And one of the things that I wanted in the beginning is, like any city, like any mayor, any resident, the first thing they want is law and order in their city, right? So I wanted to actually have law and order in my police station, because there was no law and order in my police station. And that's one of my first asks in the past when I first took over this position. And I couldn't even get that. I couldn't even get law and order in my police station. So then I made changes. I brought in Chief Hart. Well, first I brought in Commissioner Thomas. He's a PhD, Dr. Thomas. He was a chief of several cities. He came in, and God rest his soul, he came in a few months on the job. He came up to me and he said, "Mayor, I won't repeat the exact words he said, because obviously there's ladies present and we're being watched, FCC regulations." But basically he said, I'll water it down. He says, "This place is messed up in a different way." So he says, "We need help." So that's when we started, me, Dr. Thomas at that time, looking for a new chief, and we brought in Chief Hart. And we started making, trying to do as much changes. Even with Chief Hart, from 2 cities, came in from a very good city. Novi, retired, was in Saline, also as a chief. A lot of great changes that he's made. Brought him to our city here. I was grateful that he came in. And we started finding out a lot of things that were not supposed to be done, in a police station especially. And so with that, we needed more help. So we talked to the Department of Justice. The chief had good contacts with the Department of Justice. And this is the cop's office. And DOJ, most of you watch news, you see when DOJ steps into a city, it's pretty bad. They stepped in several cities, they declare a consent decree. Consent decree, when the DOJ declares a city under consent decree, that means they take over the police station. Not the mayor, not anybody has the say-so how to run the police department. The DOJ takes over. And when they take over, they usually charge at least $500 an hour. There's some departments that pay $2-3 million a year, and just for them, not just the operating budget for the police station, just their budget to come in. So we were very fortunate. We were the first city and the only city right now that the DOJ is in our city. They're actually helping us for free. Actually, they're paying us through, they're getting grants for us, and they're giving us great advice. They're helping us restructure our PD with the help of Chief Swope and Mr. Vanderplow right now. They're coming up with a lot of processes, a lot of procedures, and the Chief Swope will be talking about those. But I just want to let you guys know, some people don't understand, and he'll explain it more. DOJ they don't just come to any city unless it's in big trouble. And they're here because we asked them to come. And they're doing a lot of great things here in our city, and they're really giving us a lot of great advice. They're helping us with training. We'll get into the training with some officers they sent out, on their budget. And there's also another person that is working here with us with COMPSTAT, and they'll talk about it. So there's a lot of great things going on in our city. There's a lot of positive things. I'm very optimistic with the leadership of Chief Swope and Mr. Vanderplow. We got a lot of great things. And one of the things that I've always wanted is I wanted some investigation done within our department, because everybody says, oh, this person did this, or this person did this, or this person's on the take. So I brought in Mr. Vanderplow, just changed, we gave him additional duties, additional duties. On top of the duties that he's doing, is doing internal affairs. So he's doing a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of things that he's looking into right now. And, again, we'll talk about that more later. But this is pretty much some of the stuff, I just wanted to give you some of the highlights, of the last 3 years, some of the things we did there and why I did what I did. So now I'm going to turn it into Chief Swope or Mr. Vanderplow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. So we are going to go to, just introduce, if you don't know him, this is Acting Chief Kevin Swope. He will take us through our next iteration here. As I asked, if you have questions, if you'd like to hand those forward, I can have them ready so we can start, get those queued up for any question and answer. We will have a free form at the end of the night, but if we want to do this, we can at least get you a comprehensive answer right now. Does anyone have anything they want to hand up right now? It's okay if you don't. Okay. Right now, I'll turn it over to Acting Chief Swope. I'm going to go run a computer here for a second. So, Chief Swope.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I know we don't have a lot of these, but going forward, we are going to have a lot of these. All right. I find it to be very important to make sure that our citizens know what's going on at the police department. Not only just like, are we arresting people or writing tickets to people or, reducing accidents, but I want our citizens to understand, like, what is the police department doing to get better, right? What is the police department doing to, what's it going to look like in a year from now, right? So meaning, like, what's the org chart? What's the organizational chart? How many people are you going to have over here in this bureau? Are you even going to have this type of bureau, right? So I want people to be well informed of these types of things. And we can't, we didn't get into this position, and I'm not saying that the police department's a horrible place or it was a horrible place, but we didn't get in this position overnight, and we're not going to get out of this position overnight. It's going to take some time, right? So, this meeting, we're going to go over a few things. We're not going to get too far into the weeds on some other things, but every single month, or maybe bi-weekly, it just depends, at the very least, as of now, every month, we're going to have different topics, and sooner or later, we're going to have everything covered, right? And then we're going to do question and answer type stuff, and we're going to respect everyone's time. We're not going to be here all night. But that being said, I need you guys to know what we're doing, and I need you guys to have accurate information. No one's out there giving false information on purpose, but sometimes they just don't know, and the information gets put out there, and it's just not right. So we want to be the people who give the information about the police department. We're transparent, and we're going to work on becoming even more transparent. Coming up, we already have this in play, like our FOIA requests. We have a system called Next Request. It's pretty much ready to go. Working on this with Mariana and our FOIA coordinator, where citizens are going to be able to get information online. Also, this portal is going to have information on it already. Let's say you wanted a certain policy, right? It's going to have a link. It's going to take you to whatever policy you might want, and you don't even have to ask a FOIA coordinator for it. It's just going to be there for you. So that's going to be nice. We also have we're going to set up our own. We're also going to have a link on our website that directs everyone to our policies. That might take a minute to get to, just due to the fact that previously all our policies were updated into our policy system with public on it. So if I were to hit, public face these groups of policies, you'd be able to read everything, including how officers respond to active shooters and how officers, search for drugs in a house, right? We don't want the citizens to know that, because why would we tell the criminals who are in our city how are we, how we're gonna try and fight crime? But some of the other stuff like, traffic enforcement, how do we process a prisoner? All that stuff will be there. So you click on that policy, and there it is, right? But I have to go through every single policy and make sure that we're not just showing everything, right? But we're gonna have a dashboard right on our website so people can see. And these are all things I want to get done for you guys, okay? We currently have and I'll just go over this real quick because I know someone mentioned a system called ARCS that we have. It tracks, we use it to track use of force, pursuits, officer sit calls, pretty much everything, right? Unfortunately, ARCS is a very archaic type of program, and when we went to bid on it several years ago, I wasn't a part of it, but it was a big thing in law enforcement area. Everyone was using ARCS. It's garbage, and I think what we need to for us anyways, garbage in, garbage out. So if we give bad information into the system, we're going to get bad information out. But also, when I request information that I know exists, but it doesn't give me all the information, that's not good information. So I'd be giving you guys false stuff. So that's another, we already went out and got 3 quotes for 3 additional systems. And we're going to pick one and try and get that moving as soon as possible, because I want you guys to be able to see everything we're doing. I think it's important not only for you guys to see it, but to showcase the work that our officers and detectives are doing. They're doing a great job. So with that being said, we'll talk about the COMPS program real quick, and I'm not going to go into the super fine details of the COMPS program, but it's awesome. It's an organizational assessment. Basically, we call them, hey, come here, help us out, right? I think you guys can be a benefit, to our community. They basically come in and say, hey, we're experts in the best policies and procedures and the practices in law enforcement across the United States of America and territories of America, right? So they came in, assessed our police department. They said, well, these are the areas you guys need, help in or help with, and these are the guiding principles, how we can get you there. And here they are right here. So I don't know if you guys have seen this back dashboard. I'm going to tell you how to get there, but this is public information. These are our focus areas, and I know some of you guys probably can't see it because it's sort of small, but
yes.
I'll read them to you. So our first focus area is community engagement and problem-solving strategies, right? This is one of them, right? Community engagement. This is what we're doing. Problem-solving strategies. How are we going to work with you guys to solve problems, right? You guys aren't creating the problems, right? But you guys need problems solved. So how are we going to work together to help you out? Accountability and oversight systems. We just talked about that, right? ARCS, right? They saw that ARCS wasn't good for us, right? We know ARCS isn't good for us. So we decided that we need a new system, right? So these oversight systems aren't, it's not necessarily just like a piece of software, but it's also the systems we put in place for internal investigations. Now, when I talk right now, I'm just talking PD. So internal investigations within the city, oversight systems of, what policies do we have in place to make sure our officers are doing the right thing, or make sure our officers are healthy, right? Those types of things. Recruitment, hiring, retention, and promotion. We have policies and procedures on those. And then also, we have methods of getting people in the door here. The COPS office has given us a lot of information and a lot of resources on how to improve those areas. Employee safety and wellness, same thing, right? We need to make sure our employees are, safe and well. And, what systems do we have in place? Do they have, are they able to get counseling when they need it? Are they able to, work out, right? Are they able to see a doctor? Do we have insurance for them, right? Do they know where to go if they have some issues, right? That's important. Organizational learning and data-informed practices. So data-informed practices, that's one of the things we're here for, COMPSTAT, right? We're going to use data to improve our performance across all types of areas, right? Organizational learning. We have done so much training since I've been here, and it's only been a year, in Director Vanderplow. We have revamped our entire training process, and it's I look at it and I can't even believe we've done so much. We've hit all types of topics, right? Sergeant Suggs is in charge of our training, and he's done an amazing job. What we did is we looked at the best practices for policing and what you should be trained on. We also looked at the laws in the state of Michigan on what police should be trained on, and we developed a policy on this is what we need, guys, right? This is how often we do it. Every year, or every 2 years, or every 3 years, right? And then internal and external communications. I think that's not a big secret that we need help with that, right? Internal communications, we need to be able to communicate with our employees, our officers, our civilian employees, effectively and pass along messages without, upsetting people, right? We don't always give great information or great news to people, and we're being trained also. We don't just sit up here and say, hey, we don't need to be trained. We're also being trained on how to get better at communicating, right? With the public, external communications, and our own employees. Okay, so as you see this police department continue to develop, you're going to see us doing things that you've never seen, at least this group of administrators do. So I think we're excited about that, and hopefully you guys are too. So what we'll do is we'll put this. I know it's on social media, but what we're going to do is we'll find a way to get all this information to you guys, how to get to this website. But if you were to just Google COPS office, Dearborn Heights Police site, right, it's going to pop up. All right.
Just a funny recommendation.
Okay. Yeah. So it's going to pop up, and then there's a. Can you go back one more page? I just want to show them what area to hit because it's sort of tricky. So when the COPS office comes in, they said, do these 6 things, and you guys are going to be the best police department in the nation, right? And we're like, okay, but how are we going to get there? And who's tracking it? How do we know we're on the right path? And how do you guys know we're on the right path? Over here, you're going to see this fancy little orange rectangle. Findings and recommendations. Just click it. It's a link. So everything is here, right? So we talked about focus area number 1. If Director Vanderplow were to hit this, there we go. So findings, right? What did they find? They found this. This is not good information. I don't like reading it. It's embarrassing to me, right? But at the same time, unless you hear something that you're not comfortable with, you can't fix it. So they found something, and then they made a recommendation to us, okay? So we are then to go to the recommendation, the police department. The COPS office, they're not going to come in here and hold our hands and say, do this, right? They're going to make a recommendation, and we put it into play. And then they're going to monitor it, right? They're going to monitor it. They're going to give us resources. Hey, this is a great policy. Make it sort of look like this, right? If this fits your department, make it look like this. We're going to send you guys to training. We're going to pay for it. So they make the recommendation, and then we fix it. We fix the problem, all right? So that's how that, and it just goes on and on, all the way down through, 6, right? And it's going to say, we didn't start 1, right? It'll tell you where we're at. Sooner or later, it's going to be at 50% and 75%, and then hopefully there's a smiley face at the end that says, these guys did a great job and they're done. This one's in progress, right? So it just gives you guys an opportunity to look at the police department and say, where are they at and how are they doing? And I like the fact that this is, something that the COPS office provides to the residents because it's like our report card, right? And you guys are our parents, and we have to, make sure that we, do what we're supposed to do to make sure that you guys are happy and safe, right? So I like this. Yeah, so I think that's about all we're going to go over on the COPS stuff right now. But we're excited about this. And this isn't something that happens overnight. This isn't a month or two. This is like multiple years. They're going to be here multiple years. This isn't going to be a thing that happens overnight. And I guess one other thing now that we're going to look at our COMPSTAT information. So it's basically data. But the COPS office also provided us a in-house crime analyst program where they're actually supply us people on the ground here that's going to work with Daniel Eshu, who's our crime analyst. He does a great job. He's right here. They're going to actually sit with him, identify all the programs that we have for the city, where he can grab information and say, hey, we're having problems with stolen cars, or we're having problems with crashes at this intersection. And then he comes to me and says, hey, look, I found this issue, right? And it's just an ongoing thing. It never stops, right? So, it's a big deal, and it's free. It's a grant. And I think normally, I'm not going to throw a number out there, but I would assume, a program like this in-house analyst program would cost quite a bit of money. One of the TJ is actually in the room right now, and he's back here, and he's actually one of the people that trained, that's going to train Daniel, and we're excited about it. So. This is a community COMPSTAT meeting. You guys are going to see a lot of this going forward. You're going to see some stats. You're going to see some bad things that happen in our city, like weapons arrests and drug arrests, and also stolen cars. All these things that are not great in the community, right? They happen in every single community. But what I like to see is you're going to see a bunch of dots. We want them dots to disappear every month, right? If there's 100 dots, we want to get it down to 60, right? And just continue a decrease in crime. But with that being said, other crimes like drunk driving, drug arrests, those types of crimes, we don't mind seeing those being identified more, because that means our officers are doing more work and arresting more bad guys. Dearborn Heights is a community where, and I'm sure you guys know because you've lived here for probably all your lives, I know a lot of people live here forever. It's a community where people use it to get through, right? Dearborn Heights, great place, but there are people who drive from other communities that have high crime rates. And what they do is they bring guns and drugs from one city, and they drive through our city, and they end up in another city where they're doing other illegal acts. Our goal is to stop them while they're traveling through our city and arrest them, right? Because it gives them, it'll make them eventually just go around our city next time. They're gonna go drive through Redford instead of driving through Dearborn Heights, because our officers are making these drug arrests and these gun arrests. So you're gonna see that we have massive increases in drunk driving, in weapons arrests, and drug arrests. And I like to see that. It looks like the crime went up, but it's not. It's transient crime that goes through. We don't have a lot of those crimes in our city. It's people who are driving through our city or come into our city to create the crime. All right. So we're going to talk about some UDAs, that's a stolen car, LFAs, larcenies from autos, right? People pulling on door handles and getting in cars. OWIs, alcohol, OWID, is drugs, driving while like high. Drug arrests, it would be like someone with heroin. We're seeing a lot of heroin, a lot of meth right now. Weapons offense arrests, normally guns, and then some crashes. That's the that's a G-rated crime right there, right? Crashes. So, 2023 was a bad year for and we're talking year to date, right? January 1st to, when did we do this, Daniel?
March 21st was when I pulled.
March 21st. So we're talking about, January 1st to March 21st of 23 and then 24, right? So 23 to compare to 24, we're looking at in 23 there were 74 auto thefts. In 24 there was only 49. That's great. You know, that's a lot of people who weren't victimized this year compared to last year, right? So hopefully everyone can sort of see this, and I'll get out of the way, but I just want to point out a couple areas here. You'll see that some of the crimes, they happen in groups, right? There's a group down here on the left. There's a group up here on the upper right. Sometimes there's a group down here, but there isn't one presently. These one-off dots right here, they're hard to catch that guy, right? He committed one crime in the middle of 66,000 people. That's tough to catch, right? But these ones up here, these are the ones that COMPSTAT prevents, right? We're able to get the data from Daniel. He's going to say, hey, we have, how many are up here? Go to the next slide, please. You know, how many up here this year, or in 2023, to how many up here in 2024, okay? That's too high for me. So what Daniel's going to say is, I identified a problem, and then it's my job, or the detective's job, to deploy resources to that area, and then we're going to decrease crime in that area, right? And to do that, we're not necessarily looking for the guy stealing the car. We're going to find him eventually. But high visibility, lights on, lots of traffic stops, right? I'm not saying we give everyone tickets, but lots of traffic stops. Make people feel uncomfortable who are coming to our city to victimize us, right? So in this particular instance, we see this down here, 2023. There's some bad auto thefts down here in the south end of the city. 2024, not so much. It's a little bit different. Most of them are actually on, looks like Dearborn, right? So we deployed resources here, right? That went down. We had details throughout the summer last year where we put people up in these areas. Upper right and sort of like the middle left, almost, you know, Detroit border and the Inkster border. And we have decreased the amount of UDAs, stolen cars and larcenies. But you know what I'm going to do is my guys are going to go here and they're going here next, right? And hopefully when we come back next month, there's less dots here, right? That's our goal. Go ahead, Paul. All right, so we're talking about larceny from autos. These are, you know, these are down too. They're down 63%. Okay, that's a lot, right? In 2024, there's been 29, and in 2023, there was 79. And these are only crimes that have been reported to us. We can't guess if your car got broken into and you didn't call us. We can't put you on there because we don't know about it. But with that being said, you know, the decrease, you know, 63% decrease, that means our officers are out there doing a great job. LFAs are decreased by proactive policing, making traffic stops, you know, if they see kids out, curfews, that type of stuff, right? Making people feel uncomfortable to be in areas they shouldn't be in. Meaning, you know, if there's a bunch of kids walking down Ford Road and they're going to start heading south and they're going to go into one of these neighborhoods over here, if they see police cars up and down Ford Road just stopping every single car, they know. Go back wherever you came from, you know, before you committed these crimes. So it's very important that we continue to be proactive with this type of stuff. And you see, I mean, this is a lot, right? This is progress. Our officers are doing a great job. Go ahead.
So real quick on the deterrent effect that our officers are trying to do with proactive policing is, as the acting chief talked about, we talk with federal, state, local, other agencies, other informants. The word is out. The word on the street is do not come into Dearborn Heights. They are active on this. We have empirical data that tells us when other bad guys are stopped by, you know, Dearborn or ATF or FBI, DEA, when they talk and they say, hey, did you commit anything in Dearborn Heights or do you know about this? First words out of their mouth are, yeah, you don't go back into Dearborn Heights and do that stuff anymore. Those days are done. And that's an empirically verified comment from multiple sources. So, and we can prove that statistically through this type of data, and this is exactly what we're trying to do. Just trying to put a number to the anecdotal things that we've had in the past. So, that's how we're trying to get through that.
All right, this one, yeah, this one here we're very, very proud of, right? So drunk drivers. We have a lot of bars in our city, right? And they're, you know, all great establishments and whatnot, but sometimes the people who go there like to drive drunk, and that's not good for our citizens here, okay? So our drunk driving arrests compared to last year went up 225%. That's a lot of percent, all right? So, you know, we got 78.
Is that the official term? That's a lot
That's
of
a lot of percent. So we got, you know, I think some of you guys might have saw our Facebook post, we had 78 drunk driving arrests in 79 days. So that's a lot. That's probably more than any other city around here, probably even across the country. I put those stats to I guarantee it, that's probably one of the highest percentages across the country, for sure. So this year, 78 compared to 24, right? That's a lot. That means our guys are out there working harder than ever. Go ahead, Director.
Next one, drop.
Okay, so here we go. And then when we talk about drunk driving arrests real quick is, you guys are safer now, right? It's just, you can drive with a little more confidence that you're not gonna be hit by a drunk driver, right? And we're out there and we're still, when I say we're, my guys are out there, still doing what they need to do to make sure that you guys are safe on the roadways. So we talked about weapons and drug arrests. You know, there's a increase in weapons arrests by 69%. You know, that's danger, right? That's danger. That's robberies. People don't have weapons just because they just want to walk around with a weapon or drive around with a weapon. They're going to do something with that gun at some point, right? Relate, you know, drugs, rob people, you know, shoot people, create, you know, FA people, meaning like point a gun at someone during a road rage. You know, people do that, you know, and it's weapons, right? So the weapons arrests went up 69%, right? Sometimes when there's guns, there's drugs, and vice versa. You know, the drug arrests up by 157%, right? That's a lot. That's a lot. So this year, we made 16 weapons arrests compared to last year, you know, in the 3-month period, 5, right? 16 to 5. And then drug arrests would be 36, you know, compared to last year's 14. So once again, our citizens are more, they're safer, right? They don't have to come across, you know, people who are high on drugs walking down the street or trying to sell drugs to their children out in the community as much because our guys are out there taking them off the street.
Real quick, we had a shooting in the city on December 29th of last year. The whole scene, whatever, had a crime gun involved. With our partnerships with our federal partners, they took that gun and traced it back to 6 other shootings within their region. Just last week, ATF did 4 other warrants and picked up 6 other individuals associated to those people. So that's 6 more defendants off the street because of the work our detectives and Daniel did to increase that. Now, that's not even shown here, but that's the multiplicative effect that we get when we work with our partners and actively do these things. It's a deterrent effect again. So that worked out very well for us. Sorry, Chief.
Sure. So auto crashes. You know, in a city with as much traffic as we have, we're going to have a lot of crashes. It just happens. It's an accident, right? They happen. So, well, with that being said, last year, from 22 to 23, accidents went down a little bit. And then, you know, 23 to 24, this 3-month period, they're down a little bit. You know, the 307 compared to 328. But I think what a lot of people that deal with numbers all the time will tell you, and like Daniel, is in a city our size who maintains, you know, so much employment, and we have cars driving through our city to get to their jobs. They might be coming from another city just driving through. We always maintain sort of the same amount of traffic, right? Whether it's us or someone driving through our city. And if you look at data going back several years and even going forward, we can almost tell you how many accidents we're going to have next year. No matter what, you know, no matter what enforcement action, we might go out there and enforce this area and decrease activity here. right? Accidents. Well, what's gonna happen is, when they get away from the police, they're gonna get down to here, and then they're gonna get in their accident right there. So those numbers, as much as we want them to come down, and hopefully they do, because we're gonna try our best, they remain consistent, and they happened in my former agency. You know, we used to have 17 to 1900 every single year for 20 years. 1700 to 19. It's just the way it is, right? Our job is to try and make them go down. And when they do happen, we want them to be less severe. That's when we can talk about getting speed down. Putting, you know, some new signs up maybe, right? Changing lights, you know, different patterns, maybe the timing on lights, right? But Daniel's gonna be able to get us the information, and we're gonna attack areas. And maybe the accident happens in Garden City or Dearborn and not in our city. So we care about our city, we care about everybody, but our city's first. Our residents are first. Go ahead. All right. I guess one thing that I want to talk about, and then I'll turn it over to Roger, is, you know, to make you guys safe, to make the city safe and make it a place where people want to come and work, we need certain things to get the job done, right? You know, we need tools to investigate crimes that happen, right? We need to have devices which help our officers stay safe. You know, a prime example is that Star Chase thing. I think a lot of you heard about it, where we shoot a dart onto a car and we don't have to chase cars, you know, as much anymore, right? That saves citizens, that saves bad guys, and it saves our officers, right? You know, we like to get this tool called CellHawk, right? It helps us determine who was near the scene of a crime at a certain time. If there's a robbery that happens, and let's say the clerk gets shot dead, there's no witnesses, right? We use CellHawk to determine who was there at that time. That's what it's for, right? And then, you know, the families of the victims can say, you know what, I have closure now because the police department had the tools to do their job, and they were able to use this tool, get this bad guy in custody, and he's not gonna be able to walk free anymore. He's not gonna be able to go and kill anyone else, right? And it's not just homicides, but it's hit and runs. I mean, it's pretty much any crime where we have a suspect, and we just don't know who they are or where they are. So we need tools like that. It's very important that we have them. If we don't get tools like that, we're gonna still do our jobs, but we're not gonna be as effective, and you guys are not gonna be as safe. I'm just gonna tell you, that's just the way it is. But we're gonna do some questions. Roger and I, after he has his presentation he's gonna give, and then if you have any questions about any of this, we'll call our director to read them.
Roger, take it away.
His slides are on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. My part.
This is about afternoon, maybe.
Yeah, I saw.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I
Morning,
think
afternoon.
what we're trying to do in our department, the legal department, is to integrate what the officers are doing on the street when they're giving the tickets, what our ordinance officers are doing when they're going out and citing for violations. We want to be accountable and holding ourselves accountable for what happens at the court. What are the consequences of your action? Are we following up with what the violations have done, and are we deterring the same behavior from happening again? We've diversified our legal department. We have attorney Saad, and we have our paralegal, Mr. Mohammed, that work with me, and we have our head of our ordinance department, Bill, in the back. But we integrate with the public. And when I came to this position, I looked and I saw that first with ordinance, it's really the lifeblood of the city. That's where you integrate with residents, the quality of life of a community, and you have to make this a priority. We make it a priority. We try to be fair in our decisions. We work with the judges. We're also trying to be fair, but we want to let the citizens know that when there's a violation, we're going to act on it. We want it to stop and to cease and desist, so to speak, from occurring. With crime, When I came here, I saw there was sort of, well, there was a disconnect between the police and the courts a little bit on what they're doing. Just giving tickets is not enough. You have to be able to say, okay, we gave this driver an OWI, operating while intoxicated. You gave him the ticket, you cited him, you charged him, you arrested him. When he came to court, we didn't drop the ball. We're making sure that how the consequences are enough to deter someone from doing it again. These are crimes, UDAs, different things that come through us. We want to make, or breaking and entering or things like that, misdemeanor docket. We want to make sure that we're following through with what the police is asking us to do and what the community is asking us to do. With the CIC statistics, we have an opportunity to resolve cases before they go to court. But what that does is if a citizen has a first-time offense or a traffic violation, it's not a habitual long record, we give people an opportunity to settle it right away. And hopefully they get the message that they don't need to speed or go through the stop signs, disregard signals. So that's the goal of the CIC. Our statistics will show we're tracking the number of defendants. We track the number of defendants with double parking that we issue them, with the ones that are set for formal hearings, defendants set for informal hearings, anyone that defaults, and anything that we have to reschedule. We never kept stats before June of last year. We're starting now to do it because this way I can say, okay, we sent out 27 notices for people to come to court. Well, only a certain number, only 10, or what's happening to the other that we sent out notices? Why aren't we getting more people into court? That is a problem. It's not us as the prosecutor, but we take the responsibility of working with the court to say, do we need a different system to notify people about court? People may not look at the mail now. They may need it on the tabs that go on the phone, or emails, or Facebook, different ways to reach them to make sure they know about courts. We're working at those statistics. In pleas at the arraignment stage, we started doing this in June. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, when people are arraigned. Before, the courts would just give them a date to come back to court. We give them an opportunity to settle the case at that point in time. Why is that important? It saves money for having people come back for a pretrial, but it saves money in terms of spending the court process to have them come back. But if they can resolve it then, we can get justice right there and then, right at the beginning stage. So therefore, we have the consequences of their actions. We have a sentence or a punishment already in place. Plus, we do it faster and work with our timelines in terms of our dockets. We're also looking at the informal hearings. Like I said before, it gives people a chance to settle it quickly. And then with defaults, we have a problem. People aren't coming to court. So how do we solve it? That's what we're wrestling with now. We're increasing, as Chief Swope said, our OWIs, operating while intoxicated. We're also increasing operating while impaired. Now, operating while intoxicated is usually happen at night. Operating while impaired is usually during the day, and that's for different types of drugs other than alcohol, which will be prescription drugs or marijuana. And people think I can drive high or with marijuana and it's not a crime. Yes, it is a crime. But after they get that, what happens to them with us to discourage it? That's what we're working on as well. I think that when I was a Wayne County prosecutor, I went out to California and we had the National Black Prosecutors Convention. I went out and I saw what the California LA prosecutors were doing in terms of discouraging crime and different innovative community prosecution techniques. So I talked with those prosecutors there. I talked with the prosecutor. My brother runs the gang unit, as well as he's the diversity, equity, and inclusion chief for the New York prosecutor's office. So we talked about how the country is changing in terms of how they implement prosecutions into the community. I gave an example when I talked at the city council meeting. For instance, he was talking in South Carolina last year, Well, he was prosecuting, talking about a gentleman that he prosecuted who was a gang leader, a drug dealer in New York, but through community prosecution programs that they worked with, he was able to turn his life around and became an attorney. He's an attorney from Columbia Law School. And what he was able to do is the two of them, the prosecutor who prosecuted him and the former criminal, we're talking about how community prosecution makes a difference. Well, we have a lot of kids in this city that get into trouble, different types of issues. We're expanding it with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office to open up a juvenile, sort of a juvenile court here, under the guidance with the Wayne County prosecutors, for cases that can't get downtown, that the schools are trying to handle now, in-house. So we're going to be opening up our courthouse here and taking those cases and again, applying consequences and punishment. Kids with the parents both come in. That helps us with our UDAs, that helps us with our assault and battery crimes, that helps us reduce some of the drug use, the vaping that's out of control, and it gives teeth to the schools so it can really modify the behavior that's going on here.
And it's like a diversion, right, also?
It's a diversion program. So, you know, I think that how I was with the AG's office, I was a Child Protective Services attorney for 5 years in Boston. I know what the kids go through, I know what happens in the schools, and I know how the parents and this climate need to be held accountable with the kids to really change and modify the behaviors. It helps the quality of life in a city, and it really gives a chance to give teeth to the schools and to the police officers. Go to the next slide, Again, we're going through, and the next slide, right? I went through all this already, so I apologize. With our morning statistics, as I said, we're looking at what we do in terms of reducing at the arraignment stages, and then in the afternoon, which is the next slide, we're tracking what happens after they come to court in the afternoons with the ordinance violations. I think that how it's important that we do hold ourselves accountable. Are we making a difference? Are we integrating with the ordinance officers? And are these people repeating the same issues? If it's the grass cutting, the blight issues, are we impacting the city? Well, this is the first time we're holding ourselves accountable. And that's why our numbers are very important and to track and to show you. So we'll be working with the police every month, keeping our court schedule, our court, what we produce and what we, accountability to the citizens. Thank you.
Okay, so we're to the 1852, so 6:52. We're at the point now where we can take questions. I'll just open up. Does anyone have a question? Comment? Sir?
My name's Jim Peters. I live in the city.
Sure.
And I'm sitting here and I'm hearing all these wonderful things you guys are talking about. New tools, new devices, new plans, new staffing. What about the budget? I mean,
What about, sir? Okay. So the question is, what about our budget?
yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
Where does that come from? Is the mayor helping with that? Is it?
I'd be more than happy to discuss that.
Programs?
Sure, that's a very valid question. It's absolutely, especially, you know, in a municipal environment. So just so you know, under the supervision of Chief Swope, I actually facilitate the budget in so much as, you know, keeping track of the pluts and gets and all that. I'm a classically trained accountant. I have a degree in accounting and finance from Arizona State, go Devils. But from all that, I also had multiple years of experience through municipal finance. I ran the finance section for Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for a number of years. I was on the council for the Department of Justice as a whole. So we have some great experience here in this department between Chief Hart and his experience, Acting Chief Swope coming from Westland, and myself. With that said, how do we pay for all this? It's through efficiencies, making sure that every dollar we get, we spend correctly, we spend within the right parameters. We have proper cost accounting. We utilize this gentleman who's kind of critical to our entire thing. Is anybody in the military in this room? Anyone? Anyone been in the military? It's okay. In the military, they have what's called a forward observer, more commonly known as a sniper. But a forward observer goes out, and the forward observer pinpoints where the troops should go. That's him, right? He pinpoints us, so we're able to take our money and put it to those places where it will best be most effective. So we have that. 2, we make sure we review our programs to ensure we are being efficient and that we are spending it correctly. 3, I am a grant writing machine. I'm a classically trained grant writer. This year alone, just from the beginning of January till now, I think I'm up to $250,000, $300,000 if I remember right, Mariana. I'm at $300,000 of a get back on grants to this city, just paid for all 4 of our cars I just bought.
Good for you. That's a grant writing, and I've done it. It's a lot of hard work.
Absolutely, ma'am. And not only do we write grants,
Okay.
we supervise. I have multiple informants through the various federal agencies, through the COPS office, through the Bulletproof Vest program, Patrick Leahy. All these things, I'm on listservs. As things come out, I get them. And if we're available for it, I start writing. You give me 10 minutes at a computer, I can write anything. Okay? So with all that said, are we going to need a little bit of help on some increases? Yes.
Okay.
On some level, I can't lie. But what I can tell you is, historically speaking, this department takes approximately $14.9 million to run. But that's in any city, guys. Just, that's what it is. The first tranche of money that you spend is always on salaries and benefits. That's just the way it goes. You got to pay your people. Then you got to pay the overhead, you know, the building, the lights, the cars, all that stuff. Everything else is operational. We make sure everything is efficient within payroll to make sure we're getting a return for the money we're spending on that. We make sure our cars are in good working order, and then we don't waste money in either buying cars we don't need or repairs we don't need or duplicative repairs that should have been done right the first time. Okay? Then we have other programs that we take a look at. Hey, we just, I invested in Star Chase, right? It cost $58,000, right? That's what that cost. We actually got a grant, paid all that back. So we're even on that one. But with that said, did we put it in properly? Was the installations done right? Are we using it effectively? If the answer is no, then we got to take a look, make sure we don't make that mistake again. If the answer is yes, then maybe we invest more in that, and I could take other monies out from other places and put for that. Second, the way you use your personnel today in today's police department. In our records, has anybody been up to our record section? Anyone seen it? Okay, in our records department, we have aisles of file cabinets. Back in the day, we would pay people to physically file papers, correct? That person costs us roughly, what, $40,000, $50,000, whatever the number is. We don't do that anymore. I don't file paper anymore. It's all on a computer. It's all on a database. So do we have people filing? Am I paying people to file papers anymore? Nope. We've taken that efficiency and put it into other things, other database servers, so he can go through and grab that up. So the idea is become efficient. We can't run a department like we did in the early 2000s. We just can't. It's a totally different work environment now. So we realized the efficiencies we're getting, and then we pour that back into the business. And we ensure the business of running this department is efficient. That's why I'm here. That's why he's here, to make sure that happens. Fair enough? Did I miss anything?
No.
I'm more than happy to discuss more. I love talking numbers.
No.
Can I get to you in 1 second, because I have the young lady back here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
A quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a situation with a neighbor next door to me, Christmas Eve,
Okay?
fight escalating, and calling into the police department, the prompts that you have to get to in order to even
Yeah, they're horrible.
to speak
Yeah.
to an officer.
They're god-awful.
It's awful.
It is.
And I just don't know, in that frame time, so much can escalate when something's
Couldn't agree
going
more.
on,
100%.
that's something that I think should be changed.
I couldn't agree more. And we've actually taken an active look at that. I have Sergeant Suggs. We look at call times all the time. A dispatch center is a call center in essence, right? I actually, first job out of college, I worked at a call center for Chase Manhattan Bank. I ran the thing. I can tell you calls per hour, calls per minute, you know, the whole 9 yards. We're horrible at it right now, but we're getting better. We just put in new systems. I just revamped what we could right now as far as technology, the screens, the things they're able to. I was just in there 59 minutes ago. Dispatcher said one of our officers called in and said he needed a call for help, needed backup. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep his mic, tell us where he was. You know what he did? My dispatcher looked at the technology we had. was able to pinpoint with GPS and get officers there without him having to ask a second time. That's what we get. That's the efficiencies we get with our programs. You're right, we do know about the prompts. I hate it. I hate calling into this.
We have, because the situation was escalating. Here
Yep.
I'm on the phone waiting, like, for a prompt, wait for this, and everything's escalating.
We have an entire program to revamp. We're going to gut that whole room. We're revamping not only the physical plan, but the software. Director Cooper couldn't be with us tonight. He's actually my partner in crime when it comes to that. We're actively engaged on our dispatch center to bring those things to fruition. You're absolutely correct. It wasn't good. We're getting better, and at least we know what it is, and we're working on it. And again, I have Daniel as my end user of that data, and we make sure we hit it.
I had a couple other
So
things.
I know we're talking about prompts here, right?
Yes.
So we're talking, it's number
When
3
you call,
instead
it's
of
number
1.
3 or 4.
That's
whatever.
one thing that I did send an email
Yes, you
recently
did.
about, because I called myself, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It
I mean, it
takes
took me
forever.
5 minutes to talk to my dispatch, and I wasn't happy. So that will be changed. I think that hopefully is an easy change. But our 911 stuff, our 911 response and our calls and our answering, our percentage, Daniel, can you just let me know, we're better than, because we use the system called Intrado, right? It tracks everything. And right now, we answer the phone within 10 seconds. How many percent of the time?
95%.
95% of the time, our dispatchers answer the phone within 10 seconds. I mean, that's awesome. So, but unfortunately, it takes us, 6 minutes to talk to a body. So we will fix that. It's annoying to all of us, and I think that's something that we can hopefully fix rather quickly. Director isn't here, but that should be an easy one.
I got some other things. Just living in a neighborhood, walking, riding my bike, driving. 3 of the basic things that probably everybody is, the people driving with cell phones,
Yep.
smelling weed all the time.
Oh, God,
whether in
yeah.
grocery
That's the
store
official
shopping,
smell of Michigan right now.
Driving,
Yeah.
and the speeding. The speeding down the side streets is horrific.
Couldn't agree more.
So what are we doing to take care of some of those things?
So that comes down to a deterrent effect that we are hitting with our officers, like our acting chief talked about. We find our problem areas, we find our heat areas. I put more vehicles into the area through some of our directed patrols. A lot of this comes down to personality, behavior changes. It's a sociological thing where we have to get people in people's minds. I'm not going to speed through Dearborn Heights. I speed through Dearborn Heights, I'm going to get hit. i.e. a ticket, stop, not hit. I'm going to get stopped. I'm going to get a ticket. I know if I do bad things in Dearborn Heights, it is not good for me. That's a philosophical change, and it's going to take time. I agree. Have we seen these type of speeds? Did you see it back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s? Yeah, no, you did. I mean, cars are more powerful now.
Well, yeah, and the parents who are allowing to give their teenagers a car that has 600 horsepower are idiots. And I'll just say
I
what
agree.
it is. You might as well
But-
send them out the door with a loaded gun.
We agree, but that's a behavioral change that's going to take messaging. So we're working with, our partners with MAD and what was the other? National Transportation Highway Safety Administration.
Just be, yeah.
Thank you. But you work with these and you start the campaigns of, click it and ticket, those things. Believe it or not, I was never a sociological guy coming through college. I didn't believe in it. I'll be darned, man. You look at that stuff has an effect. So what are we going to do about it? Again, directed patrols, trying to knock that down. More visual patrols. Chief talked about it. When we have officers at night with their lights on and people see lights, that's a visual deterrent that says, nah, that's not cool doing that here anymore. Is it going to happen overnight, man? Absolutely not. But our focus is to keep those things running and keep that pressure up to where people see, I'm not allowed to do that here. It's not acceptable. Okay?
We have reached out, to like the Office of Highway Safety
Yeah.
Planning through the state. We had a grant, I think it's $25,000 or so for texting and driving, right? So our officers will be out there and they'll be issuing violations to people who are out there texting and driving. That hasn't started yet because the state, they say you have to do it during these particular timeframes. So, when that occurs, we're going to let our residents know, hey, we're going to do this. Just let you know, we're out here right now. We're doing this. So please put your phones down because we don't want to have to give you a ticket, but we're still going to end up giving, a
Wait, it's
lot.
running rampant. I mean, it's,
And that's, those crimes that you talked about, I'm sorry, the instances that you talked about, right? Speeding. Someone's gonna choose to speed when they wanna speed, right? We can't stop them from making a bad choice. We can enforce the action, we can enforce things, but we can't be everywhere, right? But people make choices to do certain things at any point in time, right? So we can't just stop them from doing that. But us working with the court, with Roger, holding them accountable is what's, what's important. Like the marijuana smells, we're in Michigan now, right? If someone wants to go in the backyard and do their thing, unfortunately, that's their thing, that's what they do. It's horrible, I don't like it, but that's just the way Michigan is now, right? Our voters put that into the law. So, yeah, hopefully we
And it's
answer those questions.
like with the younger kids, when you guys have problems with the kids in the Charger, and I drive one, and Challengers and whatever, speeding, and they get tickets and they're in accidents and they go to court, when their parents come with them, do you guys try to like educate the parents seriously about like what?
That's exactly what we're trying to do with what Roger was speaking about. It comes from a totality of you deal with the parents who are responsible for the young adults or the young kids.
Well, unfortunately, parents have the attitude nowadays, not my kid.
Well, we get that.
I've met with all the superintendents several times in schools that have been trying to go forward. And they will tell you the parents are more aggressive against you, not working with you. That's why the purpose of our court diversion is to bring the parent and the child to the court. They both will be meeting with us. And we don't tolerate, oh, my kid is, innocent and didn't do anything wrong, because someone's not supervising, if someone doesn't have the parenting skills or the ability to control that person. When they're driving, yes, 92 miles an hour down to 35 miles, yes, we get those. And we communicate with the judges when we see those things. Those are our red flags.
Do they lose their license?
What's that?
Do they lose their license for that?
Well, the first time.
What's the law on that?
Well,
And we can get into those more specific things, and that's a larger societal discussion. However, what I can tell you in generalities, we're attacking it from several different sources. The court side, our enforcement side, and public awareness. If anyone has any other ideas, we are all ears. But I will tell you, with that said, it comes from, we're going to put the pressures on that we can, and as we find our hot spots, we're going to enforce the best we can. Okay?
One other question.
Okay, last one, I want to get to this young lady.
I'm talking about the speeding with the teenagers. Do you guys have some kind of program where you are going to the high schools?
Saturday
Yes.
classes.
Speaking with the kids?
We have 3, I will tell you this, we've invested in 3 school resource officers. We have a 4th one coming online. That is their entire job, is to interface with the schools, have these discussions, have anti-crime, anti-speeding, good choices. We actually, I don't like talking about stuff we haven't done yet, but we're also looking at doing an Explorer program. Getting involved and getting in touch with those kids to show them better choices in life. And that's what it ultimately comes down to, is those kinds of things.
And we're looking at programs for psychologists that would talk about what's called behavioral modification, because you got to get the kids to think differently and not rely on the peer pressure, who's in the cars with them, but modify their behaviors, behavior modification. Get it out there, and as well as the punishment, license suspensions, things like that, to get the message across.
Well, you have to have consequences.
Yep,
Right?
agreed. Yeah.
Oh, I've got so many questions. My neighbor, do you have any questions before I start?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the grant writing. That's
Yeah.
I would just go back to a little bit before I start on my questions on the budget, because I know it's budget. I'm Chris Sullivan. I'm 56 years as a resident of Dearborn Heights.
Great.
My first meeting was with Mayor Canfield, who came to my home, and we had a neighborhood meeting, and we were trying to get a bond issue for the fire station down on Telegraph in Annapolis. So I've known every single mayor since John Canfield, and everyone has been by home.
Okay.
It's a good community, and to the chiefs, I do want to say one thing. As we all know, there's so many more rental units in our house. When I first moved to the city, Semcott reported Dearborn Heights years ago as the community that had the most owner-occupied residents. That's 50 years ago. It isn't the same. I got a rental next door on this side, and rental across the street, or rental here. So we have more of a transient community than we used to have. But we've had 2 serious incidences on my block, and the officers have conducted themselves in such a respectful to the neighborhood, to the community, and an efficient way. I can see the training and the sense of responsibility and the courtesy to the citizens. I can see that in their, how they perform their job. I was very impressed. Because
Great.
we had
Thank you
some
for the
serious
feedback.
incidents. And I would say that. And to the ordinance department, Mr. Dishman. Okay, I'm retired from the city, 23 years, okay, so he knows which one my favorite is. But Officer Abbott has been the ordinance officer I've dealt with, and he's been respectful, courteous, and efficient. So I do want to say that I appreciate when I call the ordinance office that they take me seriously. We have rental units, and it's really an issue in our neighborhood, okay? I mean, we're low and moderate income Dearborn Heights, so there's a real surfeit of rentals down there. And so it's more of a problem than there ever was years ago.
When I,
We have 6
and just real quick to speak on that, right? So I would like our city to be so safe, us have enough tools to where people don't, and I know you're not doing this, but people don't single out our renters because they're renters. People don't, you know, say, they're renters, so that's a horrible house and a horrible group of people. Well, you know what? If we do our jobs as a community, you know, our city and our police department, and we do such a great job to where the people are the problem, not their financial status, right?
Right.
So if the people don't feel comfortable to live in our city because they're criminals and they want to victimize us and live in a slum, then they will choose another city because our ordinance department is doing a good job, and Roger's doing a good job with the courts, and the police department is doing a good job, where people will feel they will have to feel like they're doing their part to live in the city.
Well, the
Dearborn Heights,
truth,
right?
that's good.
And I
You
would-
can't just pick out
I-
the
Well, I would
Nice
add,
people,
as
yeah.
a corporation council, we're also exploring, talking to different organizations that are actually working throughout the country, with at least 10 cities. We're trying to get them here. Joe
Okay.
Scantlebury, CEO, would really help get down payments for people to go from renting to owning. Getting money to help people with rehab their homes. And they just finished a project in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Rochester, New York. They're trying to get money, so we change from where financially you're paying the money for the rent, but you need a stake in it, and giving people an opportunity to move from one to transition. That's what a lot of people lack, and that's something we can try in this city.
A simple thing. I talked to this landlord across the street, he was at his rental unit this morning. I said, you know, the trouble is that oftentimes the renters don't own a lawnmower or have yard equipment. So I hope we could come up with some creative way of helping the renters who need a lawnmower, okay? Or have never had access to clippers or garden. You know, sometimes that's the problem. They don't even own a lawnmower. The guy across the street never had a lawnmower. He was borrowing
So
from
I
his
tell you
neighbors.
what, unfortunately, we just lost our chief of staff. She had to be at another meeting.
Oh,
I will bring that up to her
Yeah.
and as an initiative. Have no problem doing
Maybe
that.
the landlords would contribute. Maybe we could have a volunteer service. But we have a high renting. And some of those people, a lot of them don't even have a lawnmower and they need one donated. Maybe we could have lawnmowers. I don't know, some creative
Okay, we
thinking
can do that.
on helping provide lawnmowers and yard equipment to people who don't have it when they move in the neighborhood.
Let me talk to
I see that
Marianne.
a lot
It's a
in
good
my
idea.
neighborhood. They don't have a lawnmower when they move in.
Yeah.
So, the budget.
Yes.
You said, you gave some good explanations, and I'm glad we're doing grant writing. In this year's budget, which probably has been approved, I would hope, your budget for 24, 25,
Well, it just got
Not yet.
submitted. It was just submitted.
has it improved significantly, and does it include the hiring of any new personnel? Or
Yes.
a room for new equipment that you need?
I have not seen the final, ma'am. We put in our request. We put in our projections for
Is it
payroll.
online, or can we?
Not yet.
It won't even be available for,
Couple of
we don't even have our budget meeting until the end of April.
Right.
So it'll be a
Really?
while.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's due in for initial cut on April 1st. That's what we finished. like Chief said, we have our budget review on April 16th or
Are
something.
you hoping to hire new personnel?
Yeah, so-
Do you have a
Yeah, so-
proposal, shall I say? A proposal?
Yeah, so there's vacancies, you know, room for the vacancies in the budget. Because we're
Okay.
continuing to hire. We actually have new employees starting on, what's today? Tuesday, Wednesday? We have one starting on Monday, so it's another officer starting on Monday. We should have 3 dispatchers starting within 3
2
weeks,
weeks.
which will put us at full staff. Dispatch, first time in
Years.
ever.
Yeah.
And then we're interviewing, you know, at least 4 police officers on the 9th.
Okay.
3 of them are part of our cadet program here. So a program that we brought together, and I worked with Act 78 to change some rules to get our cadets to be able to test for police officer positions, and that has been successful now, right? So now we're going to get 3 people, 3 cadets that were trained by us already to now join our police force. That's amazing. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, all our projects and vacancies and whatnot, we're trying to fill them.
Okay.
And we are, it's all gonna be accounted for in that budget if it gets approved. Eventually, something has to get approved, so we'll see what's in it.
Is the MMRMA still our risk manager?
Yes, they are, and I talk to them daily.
Oh, good, they're great.
Daily.
And they're a great resource, and
Yep.
in regards to the legal department and the ordinances coordinating with the court system, Judge Flickley and Judge Turpy, I know them both too. I'm tempted to call them, make sure when those landlords come in and they've been ticketed, that you don't let them get off easy. Are the judges in line with our philosophy that, you know, they gotta show up, and if the landlords have been ticketed, they have to pay their fines?
They're excellent, 2 excellent
Are they
judges.
good?
I've had
Okay.
the privilege of working in federal, state, and local.
I will, when I see them, let them know how important it is to residents,
Yes.
that the landlords who are negligent and are ticketed are held responsible by the judges, you know, that they're not just a slap on the wrist, that they buy into the fact that this is a community of people who are proud of their homes and proud of the way they live, and who need support or to hold up the budget. I mean, if we want to continue to provide these kind of services, we need their services. All right, is Act 78 going to still be our promotion of recruiting, selecting, and hiring?
Yeah, it's the way we, you know, we have rules for Act 78 for hiring and promotions and firing, discipline. So yeah, that's the way we do it. I mean, it's an interview, like for a police officer, it's a whole process. You have to be a certain age, you have to have this education, and then it just goes on and on and on. We can work with Act 78, the commission, and recommend rule changes, and we do. And the police officers and the command union, they get on board, and we come together to figure out what's best for the city. And Act 78, normally, if it's good for the police department, if it's good for the command union and the patrol union, then it's good for them. So they've been great, and you know, it's been very successful. They've been very complimentary, and they, you know, if we need something, they help us out, and vice versa. So it's been great.
In communications, I'd just like to suggest that some of these meetings, it would be nice to have them down in the neighborhoods, whether at the community center building or facility, because
Okay.
I think the more people engage with the police department and interact, the more comfortable they will feel.
I want to have it at an ice cream shop because, you know,
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm not kidding.
We need
I mean,
it.
So
you're not-
we did it, actually, we
Also, I
did
think it would be helpful once in a while.
We did
What's
it
that?
at Detroit, because I would do it at the 5th precinct, the 7th precinct,
Yeah,
and the
but-
9th precinct.
Yeah.
And we would do it, obviously, COMPSTAT would be downtown, but we went into the actual precincts as community prosecutors, and we would do, like you said, give the community individual
Yeah,
feedback to their
interact with
agent.
the community. Because I read about the meeting, and that's the other question on communications. How will you continue to let the residents know? I had to call my neighbor. I read in the Press and Guide today, okay? Today, it's a good thing I didn't have anything else, you know, that I had to do. How will you notify residents on a regular
I
basis
think what we like
about your meetings?
to, I think what we like to do, and I know this is what the chief was talking about, our goal is one, to have them regularly scheduled, like every 3rd Wednesday or every other month. We don't want to just drag people in here and just sit up here and talk to you. That's,
No,
I mean, that's
meaningful
not, it's
meetings
got to be
are
meaningful.
important.
So our goal is, one, and I hate to say, a lot of our, back in the day, we would take out ads in newspapers, right?
Well, I read
And
John,
we don't-
where's John? Is he still
And
there?
John's
I like
there.
his Facebook,
Yep.
Positively Dearborn Heights Facebook.
And that's what,
good.
we have John, who's
Yes.
been, actually, we've been working with him to increase the number of postings we have through our portal on the website. So a lot of it's gonna be electronic, but I think what the chief wanted to do is have it as, maybe every other month, third Wednesday of the month, let's get together somewhere. Plenty of scheduled out to where you can schedule your life around it and make sure you can be there. And we do it down at, whether it's the fire department or a park, or,
Yeah.
not in the winter though, because I don't like cold. But with all that said, we do want to, do we really like sitting in this room on a nice night? No, we don't want to do that. Let's go to a
Well,
park.
once
We
in a
don't
while, I
care.
think it'd be nice to be out in the community.
Agreed.
So people, and secondly, communicate. They have to know about, how did you find out if I didn't call you?
Well,
If I didn't call you.
We get the problem. So we understand that we have to communicate better. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And we're going to get better. We're gonna find different avenues to get information out there. This is new. Unfortunately, we planned this, a few weeks ago, and we got the information out there. But with that being said, we're gonna find all avenues, and that's why we're working with the cops office.
There's a lot of
What
good
do-
things to
Yeah,
say.
so what's the police department in Texas do to notify the community members on how they get meetings, right? Because there's different groups of people that live in the city, right? Some people don't speak English, some people can't drive, some people are deaf and blind. So we have to be good at all of it, right? So with that being said, we're not gonna be perfect, right? But we're going to get as close as we can, as fast as we can, while being cautious. But we're not just gonna have these meetings, right? We're also gonna have, I know, one of our residents said, hey, I want you to come and talk specifically about crime in this area, in my subdivision. And we're gonna do that. And that's when we're gonna go into the community, right? We are gonna come back in this room, even though Director Vanderplat, I don't wanna be here.
I don't wanna be here.
I believe that this is a central location for this specific COMPSTAT meeting because my crime analyst is here, our attorney's here, and we have our technology and we can provide great cookies for people. So with that being said, we're gonna make our way around, do different events, different things. It's not all gonna be COMPSTAT. It's gonna be all types of things, and you're gonna see us in the community more and more as time goes on.
Let me take a couple other questions and I'll get back to you, okay?
Okay, yes, that's good.
Okay. Ma'am.
Hi, I run a neighborhood watch.
Sure.
In the city, and I have a couple of questions. You said you're hiring. How many positions for patrolmen are available at this time?
So, my number's 10.
So
Right?
you
that's
still
my
need
number.
10
Yeah, I
officers
think
to
if
be at a fully staffed department, and congratulations that you got the dispatchers.
Yeah,
Hopefully
thank
they
you.
stay.
So I would say 10, but with that being said, I don't want to stop at 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I have and we're going to talk about it next meeting, is I have an organizational chart that will break our city up for our officers up into four different areas of the city, and each different area, like District 1, 2, 3, 4, each one is going to have their own little police
Complement
force,
of
right?
officers
They're gonna
and
have-
support.
Yeah, they're going to have their detective, they're going to have their sergeant detective, they're going to have their patrol officer detective, they're going to have their community police officer, and they're going to have their own traffic officers, right? If there's a problem in that neighborhood, we're going to attack it, right? That little group. If they need help, then they call group 2 to come over to help group 1. So 10, but if I can get 20, then fine. Because once I get 10, which I'm getting close, right? I'm gonna get greedy. I want 10 more.
Well, I don't know if that fits in your budget, so
But
that's
with
why I'm
that said,
asking.
but with that said too, as we come up with additional programs, whether it's anti-crime, anti-gun, whatever we find within, the federal government spends a lot of money on state, local, and tribal departments. As we write grants, we get to the point of, if we can find ways and other tranches of money to encumber and hire maybe 3 specific ones. Back in the 90s, I don't know if you all remember, President Clinton at the time had this big hiring for local police officers and funded millions and billions of dollars for police officers. Now, it's not that big now within the federal government, but there are still programs like that. We aim to chase those. So that's our goal.
I hear you, I like that.
Okay.
I know Daniel is provided by the DOJ and is paying his salary.
No, we're paying his salary.
Oh, okay, I thought it was the DOJ.
We pay his salary. He's being trained by officers that is being subsidized by DOJ.
Okay, that's what I want to know. How
Okay.
long then is Daniel going to stay? So this is.
Oh,
a
he's
permanent-
he's not going
Hopefully
anywhere.
25 years.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Daniel, you and I have sent emails back and forth to each
Yes.
other, so it's very nice to meet you, and I will be sending you more.
Pleasure.
And I do appreciate the communication. I miss having a community police officer, and I get there's restructuring. It's okay, I get it. But I do, when you talk about having these meetings, is that your idea of community policing?
No, not at all. Not
So
even
we're
close.
going to start that.
Yeah, so there's going to be, we have to do this in section, right? So patrols are our number one priority right
Sure.
now, right? And when we fill patrol, then we move on to the next thing. So what I would like to do is have, a couple officers, assigned to, so each district will have their own community police officer, right? Which is a big section. But I'd also like to have a couple community police officers that are they're in charge of details, right? Details such as, we're gonna have an event on the parking lot. We're gonna have a movie in the park, right? We're going to, and community policing isn't just movie in the park and the car show in the parking lot. It's solving crimes in neighborhoods, right? So we'll have details where these community police officers are out there on stakeout at 12 at night, looking for people breaking into houses. Into cars and whatnot. So we're going to, have officers specifically assigned to engaging the community in providing services and feedback to members of the community. And, when we talk about, do we have enough money in our budget? Remember I talked about, we have vacancies in our budget. So we're going to fill those vacancies. We also have moved like a lieutenant that made, whatever amount of money this lieutenant made, and then we can replace that lieutenant, put him on the road, and replace him with a civilian who doesn't make as much, right? It's just contractually, they just don't, right? So, we had an officer, I know a lot of people probably heard this, and I won't talk about it long, but we had an officer, as a mechanic. Well, no, let's move the officer to help community, and let's hire a mechanic to fix cars, right? So that's one of the things that we can play around with numbers within the budget to make sure that we are offering the best service to you guys.
My other question is, you were talking about speeding as a citizen. It's ridiculous, even in my neighborhood, it's ridiculous. Thank goodness, in my neighborhood, there haven't been any accidents or anything like that. I hate that we wait for that statistics, the accidents that occur before we pay attention to it. I realize we don't have a huge police force.
I'll stop you there because that's not true. We have a traffic safety program. So our traffic safety guys are out there every single day, multiple times a day.
Oh, okay, I know it was disbanded for a little while, and I'm glad to hear this.
No, we've never disbanded it.
Okay.
So let me talk about that real quick. All right. So traffic safety and traffic bureau, two different things. All right. So traffic safety program is where we have officers come in and they work overtime, right? And they write tickets, to people who are violating the law, right? So if you have an issue in your neighborhood, I know about it, I take my traffic safety guy, and I say, hey, listen, I need you to give some attention to this neighborhood, right? So we write a lot of tickets on traffic safety. I mean, a lot. I mean,
Oh, good.
the other day we wrote like 80 tickets or something.
I've not seen, like, I
And you
know
might not.
Michigan Avenue between
all.
Merriman and, is it?
Henry Ruff, I used to sit there for 20 years.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big speeder, but I put on my cruise control.
So
You're in
do
the
I.
Hines, it's easy
But
to speed through Hines.
you're talking about a learned behavior.
Yeah, you put on your cruise control. I don't speed to the point where, but I see, the running of the lights, the rolling through the stop signs. And again, thank goodness nothing bad has happened. And, that's recently lots of things that people in my neighborhood have addressed with me.
Yeah.
I have just two other questions because I have heard of the Star Chase. Have you successfully used it, and does it cost to use it?
So no, so it doesn't. So we haven't used it yet because the fact that I'm working on the policy right
Okay.
before we put it into play. I just want a policy, so we haven't used it yet. When we do, it's going to be all over. I mean, we're going to put it on. You're going to see it. You're going to see videos.
No,
Does it cost to operate? Does it cost to operate? Yes, $6.50 a projectile.
Oh, okay, that's
So
okay.
every time I hit a projectile, but I tell you what, if we do this right, through the courts, That's gonna be part of the fee process. If I have to use that on you, Merry Christmas. Fire department has cost recovery, so do we. If I gotta put a star chase on his car, I hope not. Part of his ticket is he gets to pay for that.
Okay.
So yes,
And then I've never heard of cell
Daniel
talk.
doesn't speak.
Is that somewhere in your policy or something? Can I look up to learn more about that?
You can go online and look it up, but I'll
Is
tell
that what
you.
it's called?
Yeah, Cell Hawk.
Okay, I've
And
never heard of it.
I will tell you what Cell Hawk is, and I ran this section at ATF. It's called a device exploitation software. So as everything we have now, a phone, a car, your refrigerator, if it has a Wi-Fi capability, it goes up onto the net, it hooks into a tower, and I can tell within that tower what devices are in that region. So as my cell phone, as I go down Michigan Avenue here all the way down to Grand Rapids, as my car goes down Michigan Avenue, it pings off each tower. It gets handed off from tower to tower to tower, and it can say, when was I in that region? What we do with Cell Hawk, or with that type of capability, through court process, where we put in for a warrant, judge signs a warrant, we have probable cause to say, hey, we need to look at this tower, we need to look at its data. We put in for a warrant, the judge, if he or she agrees with us, we get that warrant, we get the call data records from the provider, we grab that back, we analyze it through individuals such as Daniel, and then I can tell you through elimination and some other tools that we don't talk about a lot, but we can take that and I can say who's in that region. That shooting we had on the 28th, 29th over here up on the northeast end, the only way we caught that individual was through device exploitation.
So it can pinpoint that closely?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and if someone gets, and this is just me, I'm not an expert in Cell Hawk like him. But with that being said, if there's a kidnapping that happens right now, and we hit the tower, we find out who was there, and then all of a sudden we can track it and see exactly who that person is. We can actually figure out how fast they were going. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, all that data would help us solve crimes, prevent kidnappings, prevent.
Have you seen especially for senior citizens, some suffering dementia, some learning type issues, they wear a watch, and it's literally a tracking watch. So if you have elderly citizens or persons with disability, and that thing on your dog, you want to know how we find your dog? I find your dog through things like Cell Hawk, right? So as Chief said, kidnappings, missing children, missing endangered adults. I put in for an emergency order through a court. And let me be clear here. That's the one thing I'm a little disappointed in. We do this through proper court process. I don't just call up, or I don't have Daniel, hey Daniel, call up Verizon. I want to know who's in this tower right behind us. Who's pinging off this tower right now? It's not how it works. We go through proper court process. We grab that information back, then I give it to people like Daniel and other analysts to be able to go through and find those things. And we track down endangered individuals. All these individuals where you see the adults, maybe with some dementia issues, they're walking away from the homes. Number one thing I would say, if I'm have that type of care facility, put a bracelet on every one of these individuals. So we're not finding them on the side of the road. And unfortunately we have. So that's how that process works. If you like to, please go online, Cell Hawk, cure it up. It's a great program. Ma'am.
Okay. Margaret King.
We don't do, go ahead.
just me too. I was a crossing guard for the city,
Last week.
yeah, feels like last week. But years ago, Jordan Daughter was my sergeant when I was a crossing guard back to Lenny Stewart. They had a program where we were just below the traffic department
Yeah,
for that.
we still have one.
Traffic department. 'Cause
We have a program.
That's fine, I get
Okay.
it, but it bothers me that we don't have a traffic department. I live on the south end.
Okay.
I don't see officers hardly any.
All right, let me.
No, go ahead, please,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
But it bothers
Oh, I've had
me because you all know that I'm an advocate for school zone safety, right?
Of course.
I've been very advocate about it. It drives me nuts because our school zones are very safe, need to be safer. We need to make, we'll set up a meeting, we've talked about it. But what's gonna be done about that?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, so when we talk about the traffic bureau.
Please,
all right?
I want
So-
one back.
So, and, a lot of people think the traffic bureau, they wrote all these tickets and they reduced accidents and, they did these things, right?
Right.
That's not what happened, all right? So numbers show, going back 5 years, the 3 members of our traffic bureau wrote 429 tickets in 5 years, right? While working on-duty hours at straight time. 429 tickets in 5 years. That's not a lot of tickets. So that traffic bureau was a facade for people who need to be moved out of the traffic bureau into other areas of the police department so they can be more productive. Those traffic bureau officers, while off duty making time and a half, not doing traffic bureau duties, wrote like 10,000 tickets in 5 years, maybe more. 10,000 tickets on overtime, while they wrote 429 tickets on their straight duty. That makes no sense. That's a waste of 3 bodies in a bureau that existed just so people could hang out. All right. So in this data, it's proven. All right. We write more tickets, enforce more traffic on duty, straight hours, straight time, right now than we ever have. I did the data. Let's say we can go back to 2000. I think it was 14. We wrote like 28,000 tickets, right? 20,000 of them were on overtime, right? That's ridiculous, right? Now our officers are out there writing 80 tickets a night.
But that's not really, because I'm gonna guess the officers that are on the road are taking calls. What amount of their time is spent actually taking the calls? Whereas
Lots
when
of
you
time.
did have, I don't care if it's overtime or it's somebody assigned to write.
That's,
and you
that's a
will be-
misnomer though. That's, quite frankly,
You
that's a
will
misnomer.
write tickets.
But I will tell you, what you're asking for in a traffic bureau, you're asking for capabilities. Gentlemen asked me, how are we effectively running a budget? You have capabilities within a department, whether it's accident reconstruction, ticket writing, whatever the various things we do here in this department is, and you try to find the most effective personnel to run those things that you want done, whether it's your crossing guards, whether it's your speed enforcement, whether it's this, that, or the other, you can either have a traffic bureau, to the chief's point, traffic bureau to write tickets, let's say in 2018 cost you, let's say give or take $200,000 for enforcement of traffic. We're doing it now for $79,000. What would you rather have?
No, and I understand
that's-
what you're saying. I just want to say, I don't see them out there writing tickets.
We're
I
writing,
want to see them
statistically
writing
speaking,
tickets.
There's people. I mean, there's a lot of tickets. Our guys, I'm so proud of them.
And I get that you might have to give it
They're-
as an overtime or
So
specifically
what's
make an
the-
officer.
So I'll tell you my plan, because I think that's your question.
Can I say,
hold on, Vince.
Yeah.
Let's get to this and we'll get to that.
can I just say with my own eyes, my physical eyes, I don't see them a lot. I see Taylor, and granted, I bump up to Taylor.
Yeah.
But that just concerns me, and I just,
Okay, no, I understand your concern completely, 100%.
You have to be
And
careful that you're not doing quotas. Okay, we're not violating the law by saying.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that I don't care if I just see them driving down the street.
Well,
I just want them.
obviously, you're not gonna be there all the time.
Right,
Okay,
right.
And you can't account for all the time.
Right,
And the
right.
chief is saying, we watch the reports, and obviously one of the things was we're trying to avoid, as one of the callers in at the last city council meeting said, is you can't profile people, and you can't do it as a way to
Oh,
make
no,
money
any
for a
state-
department issuing tickets. So you balance it. You have to make sure they're saying that they're out on those hours.
Yeah.
And they're out and they're patrolling, and they're writing tickets. 80 tickets a night, a day? That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's but they're
So-
doing their job on their.
So what's your ultimate concern?
I got a laundry list.
Well, let's,
No, I'm just, okay.
within the time we
so
have,
with-
what's your ultimate concern?
Just to see them physically more.
Okay, so
I mean, I'm
let me ask you
constantly
this.
driving.
Let me ask you this. So we're utilizing data, as
Right,
we've said.
right.
So anecdotally, would you rather see an officer drive so you feel good, or would we rather have our officer in areas that need help?
Oh, man.
I'm just asking.
I love you.
All right, so
Let me
let me
can I
answer
say
this for you. Okay, so we have all types of stuff going on, right?
Right.
We are
Right.
trying to make you the happiest person in our city, right? Not
Thank
just you,
you.
but everybody
Right.
individually. So with that being said, we are using our resources, right, the best we can. It's in a city full of 12 square mile city, 66,000 people or so, right? Even if we had 20 police cars, you wouldn't see them, right? The city's too big. You barely see the police officers because a lot of times they're not on the side streets, and that's by design. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not.
Okay.
But the more, if we're on Ford Road rather than, you know, Hass, right?
Right.
More people are going to see us.
Right,
Right? And they're going to say, oh, I'm not going down that street because the police are all over the place.
right,
But with that being said, our cadets, our police cadets, right? We're expanding their tasks,
right.
to do things to increase the safety, and I think this is what you want, right? And this is what I want too, to increase the safety in school zones.
Right.
Because now we're not waiting for us getting, because no one wants to be a crossing guard, right? It's tough. It's tough.
I loved it.
Well, a lot of people don't. We don't get a lot of crossing guard applications. But with that being said, we are taking the crossing guard applications. But when we're at a deficit, what we're doing is we're training our cadets as crossing guards. So therefore, we're not going to miss crossings, right? The crossing guard calls in sick or is vacant. Guess who's there? A cadet. A cadet's doing it, and he's going to do a great job.
We have
So we're using our
16 crossing
resources.
guards now.
Yep.
This time last year, we had 4.
Yeah.
I
And we got
loved it, and I would like to do it again, but
Well,
we'll get
I have an application for it, and a corner.
I want my old corner back.
You got it.
My next question is for Roger. Hi, buddy. Is there a way that if you get caught speeding or something that we could have a Saturday class where you could educate the speeders of the danger zones and that? Is that
We work with the
possible?
Secretary of State now, that has a 4-hour training class. I've sat through it with clients as
Okay.
a private practice. It goes through a test, every segment goes through it.
Okay.
To deal with those issues.
Okay.
But, you know, with our younger drivers, when I said behavior modification, you really, like the 16, 17-year-olds on the temporary permits, it's, in this city, I don't even see alcohol or drugs involved with their speeding. I just see that it's a decision.
Yeah.
You know, and it's stupid, and as the chief said, it's a dumb, quick decision. We have to see if we can, after we get it, can we change the behavior going forward?
Yeah, that class, I know I had a friend of
Yeah.
mine, she got caught speeding and she was like, I took that class, she's like, it's changed my whole perspective.
Yes.
So if that's something that we could
We do
incorporate,
coordinate, but
okay.
yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Go with this young lady right
Just
here.
just a couple things. On the Department of Justice consent decree, is that an open-ended or is there a time frame?
So it's not, we never want to say consent decree
Okay.
here.
See,
because-
we were
yeah, it's
for
not-
5 years when I was here,
Okay,
in a
yeah.
5-year consent decree. For.
No, they're here because we want them to be here.
Okay.
So, I know we talk about the consent decree
So
sometimes
it's
because we talk
open-ended.
about how we want to avoid it.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, we don't want this to happen, so these people that are here voluntarily. They'll be here as long as we need them to be here. So as soon as, and it's free. You know what I mean? So if we need them for 5 years, they'll be here for 5 years. If we need them for 2 years, they'll be here for 2 years.
We invited them in to come to us, to work with
Okay.
us. We're the only city, we
Okay.
believe the only city in the country
We are.
that's doing
We're the
this.
only,
That's good.
we're the
Only
Okay.
city doing this process.
Are the labor unions, the employees, risk management, involved in discussions
Absolutely.
with the DOJ?
Yep.
And the community, they've been meeting with individuals,
employees.
leaders from the
Okay.
community as
Okay.
well.
All the time. They're here every month. They're actually coming back twice. They were here twice last month. They're going to be here twice again. And every time they come here, they're out in the community talking to, I think last time they were here, they talked to Crestwood. I think even TJ, be sitting you behind. Did you guys meet with people from the community as well?
We with the kind of with CAR and not specifically with the criminal justice community. I know the cops team did. I just speak with everyone to see more in depth where specifically they met and what their plans are.
So they come out and they go, I think they met with Crestwood, right? And they had meetings with them, hey, how's the relationship with the police department, that type of stuff, right? And then everything's anonymous and whatnot, and then they come back to us and say, hey, these are the things they're concerned about in these reports, official reports. So yeah, we work together and they do a great job at speaking with members of the communities.
Did I miss anything? Vince, did you have one?
How are your numbers that you're collecting now compared to the class numbers for last year?
I wish I could tell you. You know why I can't tell you?
Because it's-
ARCS is terrible. You let me clean up ARCS, you let me find a proper data collection tool, sir, and give him the ability to do that, I could go through that right now and I'd be erroneous. I don't want to do it right now because I'm going to be wrong.
What stat was he looking for? I'm sorry.
Trying to compare this with Clemis coming out of ARCS and all that. It's
Oh,
just
come out of
it's-
arts, we can't.
Yeah, I like, and those,
I'm talking about your run calls and your stats, your murders, your rapes or whatever.
Mhm.
You call maybe.
oh, through the micro,
Oh,
through some of the micro
Oh.
things. We do have those. In fact, that'll be a topic at one of the next meetings. And that's also what we want to put up on the dashboard as well. So that very thing you're asking about, all those,
That's what you're looking at when you see the COMPSTAT data,
Yeah.
Dearborn Clemens.
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so why are we going this program, which is costing whatever compared to the system that was already in existence?
So you gotta understand there's various avenues of data within a police department, whether it's Clemis, our runs, our calls for service, our internal stuff through ARCS, which that has to be done. Then we have other sources of information that once you layer those, and when you layer those, that's when you get a more complete picture of things. It's not about one tranche of data. It's about multiple areas, then you overlap those, and then you look for the areas of which are concerns to you. So it's not just Clemis, it's a bunch of things. So, but we do use Clemis. Everything you see came from that. Clemis is clearly our data, our RMS system. Still use it every day, obviously. But also, we need to also have a ingest and compilation system of which Daniel can use, and then layer all those various data sources.
So what he's basically saying is Clemens records call data, traffic stops, crime, right? ARCS, so we'll take that information, right? ARCS, the same ARCS, right? Because we're using them now. We would then, if we were involved in a pursuit, we'd enter that information into ARCS, right? And then eventually we hit a button and it would create a report to say you were involved in 27 pursuits this year, right? Or maybe, you know, when someone calls in sick, we are in ARCS and we say, hey, this guy called in sick, you know, today, the next day. After about 5 or 6, it says, wait a second, is this guy okay? There's an alert. Clemens doesn't do that. So this other system like ARCS or IA Pro or Guardian Tracking, they do other things. They get more data that's not necessarily crime stats, but then it links it all together with people like Daniel. And maybe if this officer has been he's been in, you know, 5 homicide scenes in a month or a year even, and we notice that his complaints, that's also in ARCS, his complaints are going up. We then say, wait a second here, does he, you know, is there something going on? Do we need to give him counseling? Because look, it says he's been in 5 homicide scenes in the last year. Right? And all of a sudden his complaints are up. So now all of a sudden we're like, okay, this is something here. Right?
It's just the interrelationships of all those data sources that we're trying to sort through. And honestly, even though we keep pointing to Daniel, he's not the only one. Our goal is, hypothetically, in the future, you have guys and men and women like Daniel sorting through various tranches of our data to overlap those things, as well as our budget data. Because I take all these things every time we invest in something. Is Star Chase worth our investment? Is our investment to dispatch? Do we need to look at other things there?
Well, dispatch is a constant ongoing.
Of course it is.
You know.
So that's the whole idea, is all these things are interrelated. And informed citizens like yourself expect those answers. And the only way to do that is have these compilation softwares that we can do that and tell you, is our budget being effectively done based on our Clemis runs, our ARCS data, our IA Pro. My wife calling me again, so sorry about that. But with all that said, these are the things that we're trying to interrelate that we haven't seen in departments ever. These are new things. These are new things that departments are trying to put into play. And the only way to do that is upgrade these.
And you guys want data, and we want to give you data, you just have to have an avenue to give you the data, right? That's what
Well,
we
it's the
want.
COMPSTAT program, isn't that the program that started in New York in '94?
Yes.
It's a model of
It's
it.
a model, yeah.
Every city's, it's called COMPSTAT, but every city can be different, right? Baltimore is different than New York. Dearborn Heights is different than Inkster and Westland and Garden City. But it is. It's basically, you know, computer statistics, right? I mean, COMPSTAT, right? What statistics are we pulling that's important to our community?
Right. And I'm going to ask the question that some people are afraid to ask, and I'm sure you guys don't want to hear. We went from 100, let's say 115, 118 officers What's our number now? What are we doing? Are we up to 40, 45?
Oh, no, we're at 62.
We're at 62.
62.
Yeah.
From 150.
Hey, we don't mind answering these questions for you. So we're at 62, and we were never that high. I can tell you that because I was up in the hallway upstairs, and I was like, how many people are we down? Why is everyone always saying we're down so many officers? I was confused.
I
Go
can
ahead.
tell you, a lot of those officers that are on those pictures up there,
Yeah.
myself in the bottom row as custodian, none of the undercover officers are on those photos.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're in suits.
sir, I found personnel rosters from a few years ago. They were not in a book anywhere. I literally found them on the bottom of a drawer. We compared that to the composites up on the wall, and of the two of us, nobody loves data more than me. I dig it. We counted them up, and at the time, at the height of I think one year we had like, let's say 80. Our numbers are not depreciably down compared to other years. The numbers are 135. Sir, quite frankly, I cannot find a roster that justifies that number.
That's inaccurate information. But with that being said, why don't we address what we want and what the concern is? Why, like, are you asking us, like, why are we at
I can't see how you
62?
perform a lot of what you're talking about. You use the data and information to put officers here and officers there. So, but aren't you deter some of this stuff by having undercover officers working those areas
That
that make
we
these?
don't.
I didn't say you didn't. I'm saying you're using numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not putting people in areas just in uniforms. That's not to say that this area up in the middle section. Nobody ever talks about the middle section. I love the middle section. No one ever talks about the strip. The strip. Okay. We're going to put officers there. It doesn't mean we're just putting uniforms there. We have task force officers we're mentoring with. We have undercover. We have plain clothes. We have ghost cars. You've seen some of the new cars we've put out where they aren't fully marked, and there's a reason for that, just for exactly as you're saying. So,
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I think your question is this, because I know people in the community sometimes have complaints, and we hear them. I stay away from the Facebook and all that nonsense because all that is just garbage. But with that being said, I do hear things. When it's important, I hear them, right? I understand certain members of the community have an issue with us not having a narcotics crew in our building. Well, if we have a DEA task force officer signed up, we also have officers who are making arrests higher than any other year, right? We're up how many hundreds of percent making drug arrests. But when we talk about our future plans, all right, once we get off the staff, and you know me, Vince, I think I tell you everything, right? I think we have a decent relationship. That is something I want to do. I want a unit, like Director Vanderplof said, it's semi-marked police car with plainclothes guys that go around and they take out the most horrible human beings that are in our city and they take them to jail and they send them to prison. And I want those officers out there doing that and just that. I also want to be involved in a multi-agency task force, which we're going to try and create here in this police department, and have one of our bosses give them supervision authority over these other officers in different jurisdictions, and we're going to work together to not only fight crime here in Dearborn Heights, but also in these other communities that are affecting us, right? Because let's say someone sells drugs in Inkster, they're selling to Dearborn Heights residents. They're driving through our city. So if we're with a multi-jurisdictional task force, we're going to go to Dearborn Heights or Inkster and blow that door down and make arrests, right? So I do understand your concern, and that's our plan.
We've started those discussions with ATF, DEA, FBI, Inkster, Garden City, you name it. We actually have an officer on the SMAC, Southwest Michigan Auto Consortium, basically the Auto Theft Task Force. He's knocking the doors off. We're recovering cars pretty quick. We recovered every vehicle that got stolen out of JT Krova's lot. Everyone got returned. And he did that within 2 weeks. So those are the kind of force multipliers that we're looking for.
So we like when you bring stuff like that up to our attention.
Program go through all these car lots.
What's that, sir?
I'd like to see that program go through all these car lots every year. Because how many of those cars are sitting there that are possibly stolen vehicles that you guys don't know?
See,
Well, there's other things, technology, license plate readers. those kind of things. Those very things we have the ability to do. So, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we have license plate readers on every single car now, so even if we're driving through a parking lot, let's say, any parking lot, it's gonna pick up.
Well, did we get some for the polls also?
No, and well, we do have some for the polls, we're expanding, but in every vehicle, our goal is every police vehicle and every police officer is a source of information. As the police vehicle drives, like the, I almost called him my old director, but as the chief said, as that car goes down, we're picking up plates. And if something comes up stolen, bang, we're after it. So that actually, with your suggestion, is being done. And if I find more money through grants, I'm gonna put more of them up. And we're gonna knock that down.
Vince must have worked in this building for a while, because he
Yeah.
knows what he's talking about. sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you about the underneath.
So,
What about?
so guys, look, it's getting 8 o'clock, I'm gonna respect your time. Do we have any other questions, somebody
I
else?
have one.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
you
so
have 4
sorry.
minutes.
It's actually for Bill.
And you go, buddy.
No, I don't know who was saying that ordinance, if you're finding that you're going to the same house over and over, does the fine get progressive? Or do you watch these homes, or do you continue to wait for residents to complain to go to these homes?
My officers are, Bill Dishroom, by the way, I'm the Director of Ordinance Enforcement, so I know a lot of you, especially you, Miss Sullivan. How are you? She hired me almost 27 years ago. We do have, our officers are very proactive. A lot of the houses are on their radar, if you will, already. So if we know that there's a house that's going to be a problem, we will check it regularly. We also do follow-ups on our tickets. If tickets are paid, the officer gets a notification, we go back out and re-inspect it to make sure that the problem has been remedied.
And we're going to add, Mohammed right here, legal and ordinance has put together at least 6 homes that we're putting on nuisance abatement to take to court to go for forfeiture action if they don't. We want to increase that. We have our complaint, our exhibits all put together. We also include police reports. When I was with a prosecutor in Detroit, I was hired from Boston to do the nuisance abatement and the drug forfeiture cases. So I think what we're doing also is we're taking the police data on repeat homes. What we used to do in Detroit is we'd send a notice out to the landlord, your home has had this many raids, it's a danger. If you don't take an action, we're gonna take an action. So we're gearing up for that. These are the first 6 that we're starting, and we're gonna be increasing.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I mean, we've given him stacks of police reports like this, and he's started the process in a lot of these cars. But I can get one thing before we take off. So our cadets, like I said, we're expanding their duties, right, to help out the citizens, right? State law allows us to use civilian employees to write parking tickets for, let's say, trash day, right? I know trash day is a big thing here, right? And we don't want our trash not being picked up, because then all of a sudden it becomes an ordinance issue. Trash blowing around the city, and it's just not good. So we talked to the police unions, and they're like, yeah, we have no problem with that, because what's going to happen is if you use cadets to write trash day parking tickets, what's going to happen is it's going to open up our job as police officers to go out and find bad guys and write tickets for speeding and that type of stuff, right? Go in your neighborhood and say, hey, you're speeding down the street, rather than, oh, this guy parked next to a trash can, right? Officers have, a lot of things to do, and that's not the most important one. But cadets will get great training, right? They're gonna write these tickets. But with that being said, we have to, I'm gonna talk to many community members to see what their thoughts are on this. But the state law says that we have to go to the legislative body and ask for, not permission, but for authorization to have our cadets, write violations. So I just wanted to get the temperature of the room on if that's something that the community, you guys feel would be beneficial to your neighborhoods.
Yes, definitely.
Which is more cost effective per ticket to get us there. That's our goal.
Those tickets are only, and they're only $50. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you're just,
I just have a comment,
yeah,
whenever you're done.
okay. But and it looks like most people shook your head yes, and so I'm going to talk to a few more areas of the city to see if that's a good plan, and if so, then we'll approach council, and hopefully I'm sure they're going to agree with it, because it'll make the city prettier.
I'm just going to say a quick thing. I want to thank Attorney Hussein Saad, who's actually responsible for a lot of our statistics and covers our court docket. I want to thank him for
Just one question, is the reserve officer program back in order?
Yeah, so the Reserve Officer Program, they've been offered training on certain topics. We're going to continue to train them like police officers because that's what the law requires.
Right.
And we're going to have them back up and running in no time. They're a huge member of this police department, and we really love our reserves, and we're going to continue to use them. We just have to get them trained because if something happens in front of them and we don't properly train them,
That's on us.
we're going to feel horrible if they get hurt, right? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say thank you. I've been a resident of Dearborn Heights far before I ever met Bill or he became mayor. And I've seen the transition. And I don't know how many people come up to you and thank you. But as Bill and I are, Mayor Bazzi and I, are out in the community beyond the walls of City Hall, when we're at schools and parades, at restaurants and stores, people come up to us and they talk about whether it's concern, a problem, or a compliment. I just want you all to know that people have taken notice of some of the things you've discussed today. They've seen the transition and they're hopeful that there's more to come. We understand there's more work to do. But I would love to see this, and I'm glad I had the opportunity. I just ran out of work and came to see this in particular. I'm also a numbers data analytics kind of person. So I would love to see this kind of more on an ongoing basis, so we get more people through these doors to not only interact with you, but also to see this data. There is some misinformation circulating, by nature or by design, whatever it may be, but this is very important and it's very critical. This is very positive and effective. And those that truly care about the community want to engage and they want to be a part of this change. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, 8:01. I missed it by a minute, but thank you all for coming.